Following from my playground fights video, I wanted to reflect on how I've dealt with my learning difficulties and how I've become the man I am today. So in that previous video, I discussed how I got into fights with peers. As I described, I was a violent kid and I had tendencies to lash out. But at some point, I had to learn that those things were wrong, grow up, and become a man. So how did I do that? Well, I think the first and most crucial point to make is that I carried out the actions that caused mistakes and misunderstanding, and then I learned from that. Now, there is this really good quote which states that men learn from their mistakes. Wise men learn from the mistakes of others. So back when you were an 8 or 9-year-old kid, it is highly unlikely that you were a wise man, or at least learnt from one. You see, a lot of your father figures or role models weren't actually there to teach you the lessons, or hopefully they were. Like your dad would sometimes see you after work and ask how your day was. But for a lot of us, it was every man for himself. We were out here contemplating ourselves, constantly self-reflecting to see how we could develop and become a better man. Actually, back when I was 8-9 years old, I was incapable of doing that. I just had to live through it and think, man, I wish to be an adult. I can behave like an adult. And I believe those were the earliest affirmations I ever had and visualizations of the future, thinking that eventually I would become an adult and I would overcome these social difficulties and become a man. And so my first ever visualizations were just me saying, I wish I was an adult. I wish I was an adult. And I asked my mum about this and I said, I wish I was an adult. And she replied with saying, I used to wish I was an adult too when I was a kid. But when I became an adult, I wished to become a kid again. And now that I'm an adult, I understand exactly the point she was making. When you're an adult, you have all these extra responsibilities that you did not have as a child. And my mum tried to explain this to me as a mother of 3, that when you get older, you take on more responsibility. Kind of reminds me of the Spider-Man quote, which says, with great power comes great responsibility. And that's pretty much what it is. As an adult, you're way more powerful, both physically and mentally, than a child. And with that comes responsibility. With being an adult, you have the prospect of becoming a mother or father. And that is a huge development in the cycle of life. And now that I'm 20 years old, I feel ready to take on these responsibilities. Like, bring it on, give me more to handle. And I feel it was appropriate enough that when I was a child, when I had zero responsibility for myself, was also the time that my learning difficulties and Asperger's was at its worst. How could I be trusted if I was running around the playground like a loony, picking fights or causing trouble? I'm glad that now I'm an adult, I don't have those problems anymore. So on reflection, I believe having these social difficulties when I was a child was so beneficial for me growing up, because without those experiences, I wouldn't have become who I am today. And now that I am an adult, I can take more on the role of the wise man who learns from other people's mistakes, because I have the cognitive ability to do so. It's all about understanding your mental development and when you can start taking on more responsibility or conquering new challenges. And that is the beauty, I think, of life growing up from a child to an adult. I hope you've learned a lot from my journey here, and also my school playground fights from 2 videos ago, and I recommend you go and check that out. Thanks for listening, guys. Take care and see you in the next video.